Hello, everybody. Paul and Katsim. Hello, hello. Welcome. Thank you for joining. We'll just get everything started. There we go. How's everybody been? How have the past 2 weeks been? Yeah, because I'm not doing this weekly now. Well, not here anyway. I've been good, thanks. Actually, having a good start to the year, actually, which is really cool. I like that. How you been? Why is chat not coming up on my screen? There it is. Mimilek, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. Right. What's everybody been up to? What do you want to chat about today? All of that stuff. Sim had a bad flu, but have since recovered. Still, I enjoyed the time off work. That's nice, yeah. The flu's not, but yeah. Stormy, hello. How are you doing? Paul said I just got the thought today to work with Clawneck. Anyone had recent experiences with him? Probably not recent, but I do have had experiences with him. I do. Clawneck's a bit of an interesting character. That's all I can say. It's just a yeah. No, he's a bit of a character. I do like working with him though. Sim, speaking about offerings, so if you do consume the offerings, magic doesn't work. You say? Well, I don't think the offerings and the magic are related at all. Offerings are given to the spirit because you want to give something to the spirit. If you are giving offerings only because you are expecting something back, then you might have a bit of an issue. Because then you really are just using the spirits as vending machine. So it's you got to look at how you're doing this, why you're doing it. An offering should be something that is given um, without expecting anything in return. It's not a trade. It's a really it's a gift. It's gifting. You know. But consuming the offering, if you've given, there's a variety of actually people actually came on the comments and gave some various opinions about eating the offerings. And yeah, in some traditions you do eat the offerings, but it's because you ask the god to bless the food and then you consume it. But that's different to giving it as an offering. You might also, for instance, when it comes to the dead and the ancestors, you might sit down and have a dumb supper or share a meal with the dead. And that's exactly the same as sharing a meal with people that are present. So you might have a group of friends over, you set the table, the dining room table, and you leave one space open for the dead, for the ancestors. And you make a meal, and you dish everybody's meal out onto their plates, and you dish one up for the ancestors, and you give it to them. And just as you wouldn't like say to one of your friends at the table, um, I'm going to eat your food because I've given it to you and now I'm going to take it back and eat it. You wouldn't do that with the ancestors, so it's given to them. And when it's given to them, they consume it, they consume the energy from it. And once they're done with it, It's the same as eating poop. It really is, because it's just a waste product at the end of the day. So you don't consume the food after you've given an offering. Maybe other people have different opinions about that. That's fine. This is the way I've been taught and the way I've learnt to do things, and it makes sense to me not to eat something after you have given it to somebody else. You know, you don't just take it back and eat it. You give it. And in a lot of cases, when you're doing an offering, it is also a sacrifice. So it might be something which you can't really afford, but then it becomes a sacrificial thing. You've put effort into it, you've put meaning into it, you've put yourself into it. And again, it comes back to this gifting aspect. So if you can make something for the spirit, which takes hours and hours and hours to make, you put that effort into it, that's also a great offering. But consuming offerings after it's given, after it's consumed by somebody else, I wouldn't want to eat it, basically. Stormy said made a special altar for Hecate. That's cool. That's nice. I'm sure she appreciates that. Paul, I think offering a food and offering the sensation of eating are two totally different things. Yeah, somebody also brought that up, is the aspect of consuming the food or drinking the drink and doing that in order for the spirit to experience it. In that case, you would have to be completely possessed by the spirit. Otherwise, you know, I kind of like to think of things in practical terms, right? So let's say you get a friend over and you sit down at a table and you dish up some food and you have a drink with it, and you say to them, okay, I'm going to eat this and drink this, and you're going to experience it. And you eat and drink the thing, and they're just sitting opposite you, watching you eat and drink. They're not experiencing it. So in this case, it really is the fact that the spirit needs to possess your body completely, and then eat the food and have the drink, and then they're experiencing it. Sure, but this idea seemed to have come about that you kind of like call on the spirit and you say, I'm going to eat this so that you can experience it, and really it really just does become this idea of this, your friend sitting opposite you and watching you eat. There's no experience, they're just watching it, which is kind of rude in a way. But yeah, no, that again, I think a lot of people have taken these concepts and have kind of like just altered them to suit themselves, and it becomes, a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing is becoming selfish acts, really, and it's being passed around and taught to other people in the same manner, but it doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't. Stormy, I gifted honey to Hecate and I've noticed it's dissipating. Is that normal? Oh yes, absolutely. It really is a case of when you actually give offerings to spirits, there's a few things to look out for. And in all cases, do divination to find out, is it actually being consumed? Is Hecate actually eating it? Does she like it? But there's kind of some general ideas, like if you put food out and within 24 hours it's starting to go off, it's starting to go moldy, it's attracted flies and bugs and everything else, probably wasn't accepted. What you'll find is if the food was accepted, it tends to get drained. It just dries up. It doesn't go moldy or anything, just completely and utterly dries up. And then obviously, that's kind of a sign that it's been accepted. You might also find that if you give honey or an alcoholic drink or something like that, you might find that if you give the offering in a container and you give exactly the same offering in the same or a similar container or the same amount, but you don't give that as an offering, you put it somewhere else, right? So the one's offered, the other's not. You'll probably find that the one kind of disappears, whereas the other one doesn't. The one that's offered disappears, but the one that wasn't offered doesn't. So there's definitely notice a difference there. But yeah, as I said, at the same time, just do some divination. Ask if it was accepted. Ask if the dissipation of the honey is a sign that it was accepted and enjoyed. And then, hmm. I hope everybody remembered that I would be here today. It's quiet today. Sim, did you get many people on Patreon last week? Not a lot of people, but the questions kept flowing, which was really, really nice. So yeah, I was worried nobody would show up, but it was definitely a success. So I'm going to keep doing that every second week, and then do this every second week. So if you want the next date of this one, just check it. Where are we now? There. So next week is Patreon, and then it'll be the 1st of February. I'll be back on YouTube. Alexis, hello. Let me see. I'm sad I had misconceptions about offerings, at least I know now, thank you. And good evening, everyone. Hello. I'm assuming you ate the offerings afterwards, and you didn't know, so don't be sad. If you didn't know something, it's not your fault. It's just the way. This is why I say the problem is that people pass this information around, and it just gets. We all think we're doing the right thing, until we talk to somebody else, and they kind of go, "Well, no, because of X, Y, and Z," and usually it's because it doesn't make like a logical sense. But we don't think about it because that's what we know. That's what we've been told. But it is. I mean, at the same time, we should be questioning everything. Don't take anybody's word for it, even mine. I don't care who it is. Don't take their word for it. Go and check, triple check, what what people are telling you. I am going to be just doing an hour and a half on here today because I'm going to have to. I've got the Obsidian Veil ritual tonight, so I'm going to have to hop off, set up for that, and then do the ritual. It's going to be half an hour after leaving here. So if anybody is on the Obsidian Veil tier on Patreon, you'll see me again later. But yeah, still got plenty time. Actually, coming to offerings. I don't know why I put this on here. Actually, can't remember now. I've got like a list. I kind of add topics to do shorts, and the one is when to offer blood. I can't remember what triggered it though. Anyway, probably because people are always talking about, you know, just starting out working with demonology to begin with, you know, haven't even sat down and meditated yet, and they are giving blood to spirits. Don't do that. I know it's general information that gets passed around. You know, you work with a demon and you should give an offering of blood. No, you shouldn't. You only give blood as an offering when you've built a relationship, once you've got a bond and you know it's the spirit you're actually working with. A lot of people like to kind of get into spirit work and they're just like, you know, straight off the bat just offering their blood, and they haven't really learned discernment yet, so they tend to sometimes pick up a parasite. Comes along as an imposter spirit, and they connect with this spirit. They give it their blood, and that's your DNA. I mean, that's a bonding fluid, really. So, you know, you don't want to do that. Not until you actually know who you're talking to, and that you have built a good relationship with them, and you can trust them. You know. I'm enjoying this playlist today. It is wise advice. Thank you. Oh, let's do this playlist. It's got Led Zeppelin in it, Dire Straits, and Creedence, and Jim Morrison, and Fleetwood Mac, and Pink Floyd, and the Door. Yeah, let's do that playlist. There we go. Kasim, say we need to do some guided meditation at some point. Okay. Is there more to that? Or are you saying that we need to do some guided meditation at some point on here? Some added. I know you mentioned you were going to do it some time ago. I wasn't I? Now I can't remember doing it. Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna do the healing waters thing. But we can do that next time then. It's a bit quiet tonight, so you know. A few more people on for that. Alex says, I've heard some spirits even get offended or angry when you are offering blood. I wouldn't say they get offended or angry. It's just that a lot of them don't require it. They don't want it. Yeah, I don't see spirits getting offended. That kind of implies that they have human egos. I wouldn't say they do. But no, a lot of spirits, they don't want it. Yeah, absolutely no need for blood. Others, they kind of prefer it. So, you know, you've got to find out which ones want, you know, well, what the spirits want individually. What do you think of spirit boxes? I love them. I work with them. I'm doing a workshop in 2 months' time on spirit boxes. It's actually available on my website. And there's an early bird special until middle of next month. If you want to grab that, it's going to be it's going to be a 2-hour workshop, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end. But it's going to have practicals spread throughout. It's not just like a big lump of information and then we do the practical. It's going to be a bit of information, do a practical part, bit of information, do a practical part, that type of thing. So you kind of build the box throughout the workshop and do the invocation and everything else. And for that, what I'm going to do is we're going to be working with oh my goodness, my brain just went dead. It's the intelligence of the sun. Nakiel? Nakiel? Hang on. Sun intelligence. See. I suppose I could just go to my website and have a look there, couldn't I? It's mentioned Nakiel, yeah. So we're going to call that spirit because I felt like, you know, generally working with the intelligence of the sun is kind of like one that we can all benefit from. You know, it's kind of like about healing and the self, self-improvement, all of that stuff. So yeah, I thought it was quite easy one to work with. So we'll be building a spirit box to Nakiel. Hair, brushing my nose off with it. Probably from my beard. Does that sometimes. Irritating. Stuff, and it's, you know, making puppets, enlivening statues. Yes, you do hear Led Zeppelin. That's why I put this playlist on. So he goes into everything, and it is very specific to the tradition that he works, but it can be you can work that tradition the way he's taught it in his book, and then extend it into your own practices. So really, really good, and I like his approach. I like his method. I like his understanding of particular things as well. The way he defines certain concepts and whatnot. Very interesting guy. Never heard of him before, but suddenly popped out of the woodwork and seems to be quite a prominent person in American traditional witchcraft. But yeah, very good book. So definitely get that. Alexis. Should cleansing or protection come first, space-wise? Yeah, I would say. And I think before you do a ritual, you kind of want to clean the space. It would be kind of like trying to go to sleep in a room that is dirty. You know, there's just clutter all over the place. It hasn't been swept in months. You know, you won't be able to go to sleep. You need to clean up before you can get to sleep. So it's kind of the same thing, you know, you want to kind of clean the space because spirits don't want to come into a dirty space. And that's not just physical cleaning, it's also energetic cleaning, because now you're working on energetic levels. And then protection's just one of your foundational 101 stuff. Cleansing as well. But you should have your wards up, just general wards. Yeah, just do your foundational stuff, really. Do you need to set up wards every single time you work a ritual? No. You know, as I said, that's part of your foundational training. So you should have it in place before you even think about doing a ritual. And then when you do the ritual, depending on what it is, you may or may not add or do some kind of protective working. As I said, depending on what you're doing. If you're working, if you're calling in like the hungry ghosts or spirits that you've never had contact with before, then you might want to just like say, hi, I need a bit of extra protection here today because I'm going to be doing something which I'm not quite sure about. So let's just get it up there and then do your work and then take protection down. But your wards are always there. Your general foundational protection aspects are always going to be there. So yeah, it's not kind of like we do a ritual and then we drop our protections. That doesn't happen. We've always got protections going. And that's just foundational stuff. Okay. Stormy, I was wondering about music playing when working with a spirit you're calling on, or should it be very quiet? Some music seems fitting. It depends on what you're doing and how you feel about it. That becomes a very personal thing, actually. A lot of people like to use music, especially in invocations. I remember when I was doing, I was working with the planets and I was going through each planet individually to experience their energy. So I was kind of pulling down the energy and letting it encompass me and whatnot. And I was working with the Denning and Phillips book. I think it's called Practical. No, that was the other one. I think it's just called Planetary Magic, actually. Just double check. Yeah, Planetary Magic, invoking and directing the powers of the planets. I was working with that specific book, and that's the Aurum Solis tradition, order. And they actually have recommendations for music to play when you're doing the invocation. It's all classical, but it was perfect. They're kind of like I made my various playlists on Spotify for all of the different planets, and then I would start playing and put it on loop until I was done, and it worked fantastically. It really did. And a lot of people like to use, I don't know, there's some spirits that like more active music, others like calmer music. I remember when I worked with Mammon. I should do that. Not work with or call him again. But I did an invocation with Mammon, and for 24 hours afterwards, I couldn't stop listening to Native American drumming, the old war music and stuff. And he loved it, absolutely loved it. So yeah, music can be a very important thing in ritual. And yeah, that's also vibrational aspects. Sound, vibration, all of that. That's pleasure. Extremely quiet tonight. Hardly anybody here. Alexis, I play music associated with the spirit while preparing and the offerings, but during the actual invocation I turn it off. That's fine. A lot of people don't like the music because they want to focus and concentrate on what they're doing, and the music might be a distraction for you, and that's absolutely fine. Other people, it might actually help them to focus and concentrate, and especially depending on what kind of music it is. I actually find that when I'm actually working and I need to become like centered and hyper focused, I actually listen to Goa trance. It works absolutely brilliantly for me. Just trance music in general, really, but I just like Goa. I'm gonna say the duff music. Yes, high vibrational sounds. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, there's also not a lot of vocals in that music, and that could be end up being a distraction if you've got vocals. If it's instrumental, it's not as bad. But as soon as vocals comes in, you want to start singing along with that type of thing. Stormy, it's 11:30 a.m. Central Time here in Crestview, Florida. It snowed here earlier this morning when I was out in the snow before dawn. I was wondering if any spirits like the snow. I'm sure they do. I'm sure there are spirits which are the snow. Um, you know, not just those that like it. You think of that from an animistic perspective as well. You're gonna have spirits that actually are snow. So go out and get a bunch of snow in your hands and talk to it. That's why not. I can't say I've ever experienced spirits that like snow because I live in South Africa and it doesn't snow here. it's never been on my radar. Let's put it that way. Yeah, that's cool. Alexis, Morana, goddess of winter and snow. She is wonderful. Oh, there you go. There's one, Morana. Powerful Slavic goddess of winter, death, and rebirth. Nice. Never get snow here. No, well, we have had, let's see, I think it was 3 years ago, there was some snow. They had snow, if I drive 5 minutes down the road, they had snow there, but they didn't have snow where I am. It was just light, it was just like a sleet. You can't even really call it snow. There was snow the year before we moved here from England, but that was, well, 2 years, because I moved in 1982. Yeah, it was 1982. And I think they had snow in 1980. That was quite a good snow in Joburg, apparently, but I missed that one. No, we don't really get snow here. Kasim said, Morana reminds me of Hecate. I'm not sure why, but that's cool. That's quite a nice statue. That effigy is quite cool on the Wikipedia page. I like that. I see they make big effigies as well, like life-size bodies. That's cool.
When the true king's murderers are allowed to roam free, 1,000 magicians arise
Kasim, which part of South Africa are you in? Been to Cape Town. I'm in Johannesburg. So right up the top. So 1,700 miles from Cape Town, I think, somewhere around there. I kind of remember that because when we moved here, we were still using from England. We were still using miles, not kilometers. And I remember the first year we got a car. We drove down to Cape Town because my uncle used to live there. And I remember I just, for some reason, I was like 11, 12 years old or something like that. And I remember my dad saying it's 1,700 miles. I don't know why I remember that bit, not everything else. But Stormy BL, I have to run my wolfhounds now. Okay, have fun. Thanks for the chat. Alexis, have you connected with local spirits where you live, and how did it feel? I have. I need to do some more work there, though. I really do. It's one of my favourite stories, actually. Here specifically, and more recently. There were some incidents, or an incident at least, oh, 20 years back. But that was at another location that I used to live at. But here specifically, there's a river down the road that I go to sometimes. There's a big willow tree there that I've named Mother Willow. I kind of sit at and talk to her every now and then. But on the one side, before it got fenced off, I used to go there and you could like jump down into the riverbed. And I kept saying, when I started going there, I kept saying, I need to bring a bag with me, a big black bag, and start clearing up some of the rubbish, which kind of comes down from upstream. And every single time I went back, I forgot to take a bag with me. And I would like to say, I'm so sorry, I forgot to bring a bag with me. And all stupid excuses. And then one day I did remember to take a bag, so I jumped down to get into the river so I could start cleaning and whatnot. And I just kind of hit this wall of energy, and I knew then that if I'd have carried on going, they would have killed me, because I kept promising that I was going to clean up, and every single week I went back and I wasn't doing it. I was making this promise and they were getting pissed off with me because I wasn't doing it, and so they kind of like put up this wall and said, you are not going any further, you're not going to enjoy our river until you actually do some cleaning. So I kind of carefully took the bag out, picked something up, put it in the bag, and I said, there you go, I'm so sorry. And yeah, that was right. And then they could feel the wall come down. That was quite interesting. But yeah, they get quite active, I must say. Sim, what I can say about South Africa is that it has a very interesting spiritual energy. Sometimes I even felt an underworldish tone when I was there. It's different to Europe and Russia. I think it's probably because it's still fairly new, actually. I mean, if you look into the history of well, I mean, the settlers came here in the 1700s, I think it was, 1600s. The first landed in Cape Town, but, Joburg was only founded 150 years ago, I think. Let's check. It was 1886. So 2026 minus 1886. 140 years ago. That's when Johannesburg was founded. So, there was still a lot of, in terms of cultural, indigenous practices and traditions and stuff. It's still very, very fresh, which is probably why it does feel like that. And it's very diverse here as well. I mean, we've got um, 12 official languages. I don't even know anymore. Um, one's Afrikaans, one's English, one is sign language, and then the rest are indigenous languages. Um, so it is quite diverse. I love South Africa. I think South Africa is amazing. I'm just counting this: 3, 6, 9, 12. Yeah, 12 languages. Yeah, I did get that right. South African Sign is also in there. And then it's Southern Sotho, Tsonga, Northern Sotho, Swati, Xhosa, Venda, Zulu, Tswana, and Ndebele. Those are the other official languages. Alexis, there may have been collision of energy as the local meeting, or the local meeting were new. I don't think so, actually. The interesting thing about South Africa is that the indigenous people, the South Africans, the Zulu and the Xhosa, etc., they love it when you have an interest in their culture, and they kind of take you in and they show you all the stuff, and it's fascinating. There was a period back in, I think it was the Boer War. I'm not entirely sure which war it was, but there was a lot of people coming from Europe who were being enlisted and forced into the war here in Africa, and a lot of them were refusing to fight, and they were put in jail. My grandfather was one of them, and I remember having a Zulu friend here years back, and he was doing some work with his ancestors, and he was talking about me, and his ancestors actually told him that because my grandfather refused to fight in the war, that him and his descendants would be accepted in this country. So that was kind of a nice surprise, actually. Alexis, anywhere you'd love to travel? Oh yeah. Oh goodness. Mexico. I'd absolutely love to go to Mexico, and to Philippines, Bali. Have to go to Bali at some stage. Singapore. Love to go there. Especially Singapore, just to see the shrines and the streets and stuff. I mean, talk about culturally rich countries. That's just out of this world. Yeah, those kind of places, really. And I don't know, I would say India, but it would have to be very specific, in the mountains kind of thing. Like go and visit the Kamakya temple. So, around that area, close to that. And England. I'd like to go back to England just to visit. But not the cities. I don't want to go to the cities. I want to go to the villages, where the culture is. Yeah. Take part in some old rituals, public rituals and whatnot. That would be fun. Oh, and sorry, this is a new one actually, a new addition to my travel plans, Cyprus. Because apparently I have a very strong connection to Cyprus, which explains why I keep coming back to the Greek. Even though I keep like saying no, I don't want anything to do with that. You know, they've got their own ideas. Hope everybody's enjoying the music. I am. Alexis, I had a vision about someone I knew who died by suicide, that their spirit is in a warm and relaxing holiday place like Bali. That's nice. That's cool. It's nice to see somebody, I'm going to say ancestor, in a nice, warm, relaxing place. Why not? Greek pantheon, they don't leave us alone in a good sense. Yeah. Actually, I don't know if you've read this, but I need to reread it because I didn't finish it. Mythos by Stephen Fry. Can't even see if it's on the screen. Hang on. There we go. Yeah, Mythos, Stephen Fry. Brilliant. I just love the way he writes. I love his sense of humor. But it's a really good book. And as I said, I'm halfway through, but I need to start from the beginning again. So that's going to be maybe my next book. I have to think about that one. Kasim, suicide though isn't very good for spiritual development. I do know they punish the souls of suicide. I don't really know about that. I don't know. I haven't really made up my mind about that. I mean, obviously, I came from a Christian background, like many of us do, and therefore, in the Christian worldview, it is a sin. And I kind of rejected that whole idea. And I don't think I've really examined it as much as I should. But I think I'm very much a fate kind of person, and I think we're all fated to live the life we're supposed to live. And if that ends by us taking our own lives, then it was fated. You know, that's how it was supposed to happen. So I kind of like bring that into the mix and I go, well, in that case, why would we get punished for it? But it is something I need to examine a bit more, a lot further, as part of my own personal worldview, because I haven't done enough of that in this particular topic anyway. I need to switch screens because I can see myself talking over there in delayed time. It's a bit weird. Alexis, do I think they punish the soul when the soul breaks an important life contract that they decided before incarnating? Possible, yeah. Again, this is going to, this type of thing becomes very, very personal, and very personal to your worldview, because these are things that we can't actually prove. We can't say that it is this way or it is that way. There's no absolute one truth. Everybody has their own worldview. And when it comes to the process of, I can't really say dying, but there's a point where the living can't go beyond that point. And so, from that point on to when we get reincarnated, we have to rely on mythology and things like that, where we start to, this makes sense, that doesn't make sense to me. So we start to build our own personal worldviews, and that's going to look different for a lot of for everybody. So do we have these life contracts when we come back, or are we just dumped into a body and said, you will go and experience X, Y, and Z? We're putting you with this particular family, and in this particular lifestyle and everything else to experience something. But I don't know. But that's kind of difficult. But yeah, as I said, it ends up being a personal interpretation of how things work. Sappho, hello. Thanks for joining. It's quiet tonight, so if you got any questions, throw them in, and we'll get through them. Sappho, one of those topics. Worldview. We got tossed back into the ethereal soup, so to speak. Oh, that's mine, yeah. The cosmic soup. Yeah. But it's just, the kind of general idea is we die, we get thrown into the cosmic soup, we get mixed up with all different other souls, and then a lump gets taken out and gets put into a new body, whatever that body may be, and we're sent back again to do whatever it is. But all the little details in between, I don't really know. But yeah, it's interesting to explore, to think about, to examine, to discuss. And I think that actually one of the biggest problems there is, as I say, there's no absolute truths. So you get some people who say that they remember the process that happened from one life to the next life, and all the details that went on, everything that happened. But that doesn't mean that that's everybody's experience. Where do we go when we die? Do we go to our own type of heaven? A Christian will go to their heaven. A heathen will go to the halls of hell, for instance. It's all different. Alexis, what's your take on spiritual narcissists Is solitary path preferred? Well, I think you get narcissists in every walk of life, and you know they're just everywhere. You're going to get them in the spiritual as well, and you just have to recognize them, and then I would say deal with them, but don't deal with them. You don't have to know them. Just say bye bye. Have a nice life. I don't want to know you anymore. Is solitary path preferred? No. That's not a preference, I don't think. It does keep you safe, but it also keeps you isolated. Um, there's something, community is extremely important, and this is why I say, you know, when I talk about solitary path, when somebody says they're on a solitary path, I think they don't have any communication with any other witches, because that makes them solitary. If you are talking to other witches and you have friends who are witches, then you're not actually solitary. Even if if you have a group of very, very good friends who are all witches, and you get together every now and again, and you have a good laugh and a drink, and you talk about magic, that's a coven. It doesn't have to be a formal initiatory thing that you get, you know, thrown into and get told what to do. In fact, if you're being told what to do in a kind of egalitarian kind of manner, then it's probably not a good coven. But yeah, we kind of say this solitary path, but it's not really what we mean. We are witches that should be building communities. Communities is extremely important. This is a community, for instance. It's just a bit different to, something personal. And this is more on the internet, so it gets a bit broader. You know, if you go onto Facebook and you join a group that's got thousands of people on, people call that a community. I wouldn't. You don't know 95% of the people there. And it's just a bunch of people who wouldn't be able to work together if you gave them instructions, because they all have to do their own thing. A community is a small group of very trusted people, well, if you ask me. So yeah, and build those communities, because they are going to become very, very important. But yeah, I'm coming back to your question about spiritual narcissists. You are going to get spiritual narcissists in groups and in covens. And if you find one and you don't like it, leave the group. You don't need to stay. You make your own choices. Where was I now? Kasim. I best head off. Oh, okay, my battery is low tonight. Have a good one. Thanks for joining. Thanks for the chat. Safa, I don't see it that way. As for reincarnation, Lilith during meditation described as going from the I, as in the individual, to a they, as in belonging to everything. Oh yeah, no, completely agree with that. No. What were you saying? Yeah, you were saying just now the ethereal soup thing. But that going from the I to the they is, I think, kind of like why we're here. We get thrown into this world where we are taught that we are supposed to be this individual, and we are separated from all things. To say we are the individual is a bit of a it's not really very descriptive, but it's the idea that we get separated. We're still individuals, but we're separated, and we need to find our way back to the union of all things. Again, we're still individuals, but we're united with everything. We are everything. So I think that's kind of why we're here. Part of why we're here, anyway. Dragon, hello, and Ruth's here, and Kerry's here. Hello, thanks for joining. Did you guys No, we haven't had a clock change. I thought maybe there was a clock change and a daylight saving stuff. Anyway, Dragon, hello Uncle Lee, hello, hello. Is there a wrong or right approach to magic, or can we just make up exercises with visualization and emotion and energy and connect to an occult current or force? I wouldn't say there's a right. This is a difficult one to tell you the truth, because technically there is a wrong way of doing things. But at the same time, I can't really say there is a right way of doing things. It's about immersion and engagement. You know, sure, you can make up exercises and do visualizations and stuff, but if your will's not engaged, if your desire is disconnected, if you are not following the formula, then nothing's going to happen. You know? But it's got really not really about wrong and right. It's just about, are you engaged or are you not engaged? And connecting to an occult current or force, I guess we do, even if we just connect with the surroundings and our environment and ourselves, we are connecting to an energy. But yeah. Ruth, I said hello to Ruth, hello. Kerry, hello. Sappho, your life force, that energy used to make other things, the consciousness is joined with the collective consciousness of all things. Yep, I agree with that. Kerry, I did answer your question on Discord, didn't I? I know I read it this morning, and then I got distracted, and then I'm sure I came back and answered it. Tell me if I did or didn't. Could be imagining it. Is visualization magic like path working? Technically, no. But you know, when we talk about guided meditations, people call it path working, and again, technically, they're not the same thing. Path working is going from one realm to the next. You follow the path, which is why it gets connected with Kabbalah and the Tree of Life, because you're walking from one realm to the next and you're walking along the path. That's path working, you're working the path. So in terms of something akin to guided meditation, the differences would probably be guided meditation, you are given the script. You're told what to do, where to go, what to say, what happens, right? So you kind of like start at point A, you get led around the whole thing, and you come back to point A, but you finish the guided meditation. But everything is told what's going on, you know, what the spirit says, how your response should be, all of that stuff, right? Path working takes you from point A to point B, and during that process there's a lot of symbolism that comes up. That symbolism tends to trigger things subconsciously within you, and that puts you into more of an immersion in the practice itself. And when you get to point B, you're not told what to do. You get there and you have to deal with it. So a spirit could come along and talk to you, another one could come along and whack you over the head, but that's part of the process, that's part of the path working itself, okay? You deal with it, you get through it, and then you are taught how to get back again. But quite often it's going from point A to point B to point C to point D, etc., etc. And along the route from point A to point B, or B to C, etc., you have all of the symbolism that pops up, like walking along the path which has a river, and the river crosses, or you cross the river, or you walk between two columns, one's black, one's white. There's all of the symbolism that starts to pop up, and quite often it is associated with the tradition you're actually following. And it immerses you into that actual journey itself. Sappho Collective typo. I've lost my place now. Oh, collective consciousness. Okay, that's fine. Alexis, I guess there is both I solitary and we community. Both aspects exist, but we as social human creatures do need communities, families. Oh yes, absolutely. As humans, we need interaction. It's just built in. You know, we're kind of like pack animals, except for me. I'm a hermit. Maybe after a few years, I would kind of like go, okay, I want somebody around now, but I don't know. But yeah, we do need community, and especially on the witchcraft path, it's very important because you experience things and you need to talk about them. And even if the people in your community haven't had the same experience, the act of talking about them, bouncing it off somebody else, of, you know, kind of putting it down, putting it out there, getting it out of your head, that process helps you to answer your own questions. And if you don't have somebody to do that with, it gets very difficult. So, yeah, very important. Ruth, no daylight saving change yet. Will happen in the spring. Yeah, it was a bit early. Oh, it's March, isn't it? Is the next time it happens, March time. Do you have any book or resources recommendations for exploring animism as a spiritual practice? Not specifically, no. This is one of those things that tend to find its way into, a person's book. Like, for instance, I just finished reading Ensouling the Effigy, and Matthew Venus, the author, is an animist, so he talks about animism. I also did the review, recorded the review for Pagan Anarchism today. He's also an animist, so he kind of brings it into the discussion. So it's kind of like one of those things where an animist will talk about it from their perspective, or talk about the broader topic from their perspective as an animist. But I can't think of anything specifically regarding being an animist or anything like that, if that's what you're referring to. Kerry, I did not know that visualization magic was limited to... I don't know if visualization magic is limited to guided meditation. I mean, if we examine visualization, that kind of comes into everything. You need to visualize something in order to do a path working, for instance. Visualize the route, the things that's happening. But at the same time, if you are doing journey work, you need to be able to visualize. If you are doing spell work, you usually need to be able to visualize an outcome. So visualization is a broader umbrella. Harry, did you ever work with a spirit that inspired you with lust? Moment did this to me, and I had to transmute the energy. Oh yes, Asmodeus, and also Aim, or I am, as I prefer to say, was another one, and Pan was another one. There's quite a few of them actually. But Asmodeus was probably the most prominent there. But at the same time, it's not always lust that we recognize as being that sexual energy. It's power. It's just that the way it feels so similar to lust and to that sexual erotic energy that we kind of think it's lust. But it really is just spiritual esoteric power. that's rushing through us, and it feels erotic because it is erotic, you know. Alexis, have you ever traveled astrally in any of Lady Hecate's realms? Do Spirit invite people to their domain? When I work with Hecate, to tell you the truth, I actually work with her at crossroads and old trees and things like that, in my natural environment. Haven't done any kind of otherworldly travels or journeys or spirit flight with Hecate. Can't say I've ever really thought about that before either. And I think it's largely because Hecate is that goddess which traverses all the realms. So, you know, in a lot of cases, if I'm going to go talk to the ancestors, I need to go to them. If I'm going to go to talk to demons, I usually go and talk to them in their realm, or gods, or things like that. Because it's easier for me to go there than it is to pull them here, because it becomes this muted type of energy. But a goddess like Hecate is here all the time, as well as in all the other realms, all at the same time. So it becomes easier to interact with Hecate here, you know, physically. And also Pan's the same as well, I find. Yeah, it's an interesting thought. Anyway, Sappho, if you're going to do anything visualizing or anything, grounding is extremely important. Oh yeah, I carry a pet rock with me now. That's a cool idea. I actually, something that came up, or kind of working a ritual that was shown to me to actually bring myself out of a state of anxiety. So what you do is you you go to the river, you get a rock about the size of your fist, and you then bring it back, you clean it, cleanse it, and I think there was if I remember correctly, I had like a charm that I would say over the rock. And then what you do is you lie down on your back and you put it on your belly, just below your belly button, and it will actually calm you down. Um, and yeah, same thing. You know, that in itself is very much a grounding technique. Um, Especially if you are going in a state of anxiety. Grounding is a fantastic thing to do, if you're experiencing that. So yeah, pet rock, brilliant, love it. I hope you painted a face and stuff on it as well. And named it. You got to name your pet rock. Name your pet rock. Lowton, hello. Obsidian's really good for grounding as well. Yes, all of the black stones are usually good for grounding and protection and all that stuff. Onyx, I found onyx. I've actually got a onyx. Well, it's called a pie stone. It's cut. It's man-made. But I kind of I'm not really a crystal and gemstone person. But I ordered this for something I was doing at the time, and I kind of put it on. Immediately, I felt like kind of like grounding, solidifying energy. It was fantastic. Oh, bloody thing. I think my hot chocolate went on curdled. Yeah. Lowton, I've got a few crystals. They're fantastic things. I think they're beautiful. I really do. I'm just never been. I actually had a ton of crystals, and when I say a ton of crystals, I mean a ton of crystals in my house at one stage. And the reason was my ex-wife, at the time wife, Her mother actually owned a crystal shop, and she used to import crystals from Madagascar. Um, but at the time, she was living in Madagascar, and so she actually asked us if we could keep all of or store all of her boxes in our garage. So we did, and then my wife decided to open them all and pull out all the crystals and put them on display in our house. So we had crystals all over the fucking place, everywhere, and they're beautiful. I really love them. But still, even then, I tried getting into crystal magic and crystal healing and all of that stuff, and just wasn't interested at all. No. Right, I say as there's like 6 on my desk, 8 on my drawer, and 6. You got plenty then. That's not. What did you say? A few crystals? No, that's plenty of crystals. Ruth, do you ever work with angels? I don't know. That's kind of a bit of a lie, actually. I have recently started working with the Solomonic Pentacles, which you do vibrate the angelic names. I guess you could say, in a sense, I'm working with angels there. But when we talk about working with angels and working with other spirits, that's very different. In this case, it is invoking or evoking the energy of that particular collection of beings. As we've discussed so many times on here, I have slightly different viewpoints of what angels are compared to what modern interpretations seem to be. They're not this. Angels are not this singular being like we might consider a god or a goddess. They are a collection of entities, and they are all called this angelic name. And they all fall. There's this variety of different. Can't call them hierarchies, levels, or anything like that. Words fail me today again. But anyway, yeah, no, a bit of a different interpretation than what a lot of people consider angels now. And angels are definitely not the same as archangels as well. I have to throw that in. I did a short recently, actually. Sure, I'll upload that. I'm gonna check. Oops, no, go. Click there. Click there. Click there. Okay. Where am I? Sappho question. I've been breathing into my sigils to activate them. Thoughts? Yeah. I do think personally this is where sigils tend to start crossing over into servitors because you're giving it life. Oh my goodness, there's a 20+8 already. I'm gonna have to wrap up because I've got to do the Obsidian Veil ritual just now. Just again, if anybody is on the Obsidian Veil tier on my Patreon, I'm doing the ritual tonight in 40 minutes from now. So I'm going to just wrap up with the questions here and then going to say cheerio. So the way I see sigil work specifically, and this is a chaos magic modern form of working with sigils, we create or compress our words into a glyph, and then we go into trance in order to bypass our filters, and we shift that glyph from a conscious mind into our unconscious mind, where it can then go and do its work, and then we forget about it in a conscious mind because we don't want to interfere with it. That's sigil work. When you're breathing onto it, I feel that would give it life. And that starts to move from being a sigil into a servitor. And I believe that when we do spell work, we're creating thought forms all the time, which are servitors. Servitors are thought forms. So it's kind of the same process. But breath is life, you know. But I do like the idea. And if it works, carry on. You know, there's no question about it. If it works, it works. That's the main thing. You know, doesn't at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what you're doing. The question is, does it work? And if it does, perfect. Kerry, S. Connolly made all of the sigils for the daemons, and the one she made for Murmur has the Elder Futhark rune of Gebo in it. This is powerful symbol. I wonder if she knew the rune association. I'm not sure. I think there's still speculation of if she created them or if Ducant created them. A lot of people say that Ducant never existed and that she just made the whole thing up. More power to her. Because she created an incredible system that works, and she didn't take any credit for it. And everybody's like, oh, she's such a fraud because, you know, Ducant never really existed. She just made everything up. Fuck yeah. And I don't think they really understand what they're saying when they say that. But anyway, moving along. Alexis, last time I did ritual with Morana, she reminded me to put obsidian on her altar. It's popular crystal. It's, yeah, I mean, well, that's actually interesting. Because Morana is the goddess of winter and snow and everything else. And obsidian is it obsidian? Is volcanic rock. Which is very opposite. Let's just double check. Yes, obsidian is an actual volcanic glass. So that's interesting, actually. Obsidian is fire, yeah. Yeah, yes, cool. Kerry at Ruth, leaders not work with angels. No, not really. I don't like angels. They are entities or groups of entities which are way too big to kind of work with properly. And people who have worked with the Enochian angels, for instance, who properly worked with them, especially the seers, they don't like them at all. They are a pain in the ass. You know. Brighton, my mother did remote viewing once years ago, and she focused on my room at the time, and all she saw was the image of a dragon sitting in a cave. That was the moment I noticed how many crystals I have. Occupations. Oh yeah. Kind of realize, oh, I kind of gone a bit overboard here. I'm not saying you have, just thinking. Yes. Anyway, Alexis, a friend, an occultist and practitioner, shared with me that God Odin caused him to get into car accidents and then made him hug a tree. I don't know what to think of that. I'd say no. Why would Odin even bother doing something like that? In a case like that, you usually find that the person had an imposter spirit come along and lie to them. It wasn't Odin. It was just a parasite. I mean, seriously, why would a god bother doing something like that? I mean, it's just so menial. Anyway, Ruth Obsidian is fire. Lowton, a mixture of fire, earth, and water. Yeah, that's true. Because it comes from the earth, it heats up, and then it cools down. Yeah. Cool. Collection must grow. Go for it. Ruth, thanks for this, Lee. An awesome rest of your day. You too. Thanks for the chat. And Odin said Odin would absolutely tell you to sort your own stuff out. Oh yeah, yeah, you would. Odin doesn't mess around. Alright, I'm going to wrap up then and then get set up for the ritual. If anybody does want to know about the Obsidian Veil ritual, it's kind of cleansing and protection I do once a month for people on the Patreon tier. So yeah, if you wanted to get into that, then join on my Patreon. Kerry said, friends, I'm introducing my bill into the House Judiciary Committee next week and could use lots of prayers, Prince. Cool. Thoughts will be with you. Alright, I'm going to go. Thank you, everybody. Yesterday? Oh, it was yesterday. Oh, I just saw Greater Feast Day of Jake Stretton, Kent on January 17, 2023. Oh, he died 3 years ago. Okay. Divs, hello. Where have you been? You've been lurking in the background. Alright. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one. And I'll see you in 2 weeks' time on here. Otherwise, if you're on Patreon, I'll be on Patreon next week. Okay. Cheers for now.